welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing good, staying home, staying safe. But for today's video, I wanted to go back to basics, throw it back a little and talk about eyeshadow blending technique. So I'm going to sit down with you, get up and close personal with you and just talk about eyeshadow blending, how I blend my shadows, the brushes, the techniques, the layering, the everything for a basic. I have to emphasize that this is not a cut crease or a spotlight or a halo eye. This is just a basic eye. Once you get the techniques, you can obviously just build from that. If you are looking forward to just upping your skills in this quarantine period, or if you just want to learn in this quarantine period, then this is a great basic beginners video. Even if you are someone who's been doing makeup for a while, you might be able to learn a couple of things from this. Or if you think there's something that I need to learn, please comment it down and let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that I do. So yes, without any further ado, if you want to know some basic techniques of eyeshadow application, then please keep on watching. And my hair just flew with me. I'm starting off with no layer of product on my eyes, so there is no foundation, no concealer on my lid, only a nice and moisturizing eye cream. Moisturization in general helps in making sure that your skin is smooth and ready for makeup, especially around your eyes because you have creases and lines and everything. Moisturization really helps. If you are not moisturizing, you will feel that your eyes feel a little drier when you do makeup because you are applying shadow, which is essentially a powder on the skin, and powders tend to dry out your skin. Your eyelids are more delicate than the rest of your face, so moisturizing your eyes is really important. You don't need to use an eye cream, but I love using eye creams. The next step is going to be priming my lids, and I'm going to use the NYX Eyeshadow Base. You can use a base, primer, whatever you prefer. I like it to be near my skin tone so I can blend it into my foundation and concealer. I've seen people using white eyeshadow bases as well. I'm personally not a big fan of that because you can clearly see demarcations of white. At least on my skin tone you can, so I prefer using something that's near my skin tone. Now I have been deviating a little from using an concealer as my eye primer because again it's very emollient, and especially on your top lid because it has so many creases and crevices. The oiliness when it comes with contact with powder, it just creates a very cementy like mixture. An eye primer is more, waxy, so it's not as oily. I'm going to be using a synthetic brush because synthetic brushes tend to work better with cream products. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that. You don't want to apply a lot of primer. I've seen people applying a lot of primer, a lot of concealer to prime their lids. Again, first of all, I just feel that's anyway a lot of product to put, especially in a place which can crease up so quickly. So just using a thin layer of primer would essentially do the same thing. You just want your primer to grip onto the eyeshadow and make sure that your eyeshadows are nice and pigmented. So of course a thin layer would do the same job as well. I'm just going to ensure I nicely blend this out into my foundation so that there is no clear demarcation and my skin looks nice and even. The eyeshadow palette I'm going to use today is by Nykaa, their 10-in-1 eyeshadow palette, and this is in the shade Beachside Peach. It's a very nice neutral palette with hints of peach in there, perfect for Indian skin tone. I've been really enjoying these palettes. These are nice and affordable palettes. They have a very good color payoff as well, but of course you can switch up the colors because it's all about the technique and not about this eyeshadow palette or these colors in general. You can just switch up the colors or the palette with whatever you have. I do have a video on my favorite eyeshadow brushes. I will link it for you guys in the bottom bar, so you can go ahead and check out what are my favorite eyeshadow brushes and what brush does what. But just to give you a general fair idea, the bigger the brush, the lesser pigmented your eyeshadow will come onto your lids. The more dense the brush, the more pigmented the eyeshadow will come. So for this tutorial, because this is a basic blending tutorial for a basic eye, it's not a cut crease, it's not a halo or anything, it's just a basic nice blended out eye, smoky blended out eye. I'm going to be going from lightest shade to the darkest shade. So I'm going to use a fluffy brush in the beginning, a nice fluffy brush just to get a nice wash of color in my crease, and then we'll deepen up our crease with every color. Another basic guideline I can give you is the bigger the brush, the lighter the color. So I'm going to start off by picking up this brown. It's a nice light brown, and I'm going to pick it up on the tip of my brush. So you want a maximum color just right there. So you're just picking it up straight on the brush. You're not picking it up like this because the sides don't really match in a fluffy blending brush like this. You want to pick it up right here so that you end up using lesser product as well. Then you want to dust off the excess so there is no fallout on the face. If you have a lot of product on the brush and you go directly like that, you can end up having a lot of fallout. So just always dust it off. So I'm just going to take this color. I'm going to ensure that there are no creases on my eyelid. I'm blending everything out once again because you can develop creases in a long while. And then I'm just going to go in circular motions in my crease. Circular motions is basically when you're making circles. It's very self-explanatory. So I'm just going to go in circular motions and I'm going to deposit this color. Again, you're going to hold the brush with very light pressure. You don't want to poke your eye. As you can see, even when I'm going on my eye is barely moving. Whereas if I was putting a lot of pressure, my eye would be like uplifted like that. But you just want to go very lightly. You can hold the brush from afar as well, but I feel like when I do that, I don't really have any grip on where my brush is going, and that can end up in the color not being where I want it to be particularly targeted. So I do hold my brush from not so afar but not so close. Like I don't hold it from here like a pen, but I hold it approximately like midway. But I don't apply a lot of pressure. The pressure is in your hands, so you can obviously just manipulate the pressure. So I'm just gonna blend this color out, and as you can see, it's going on very evenly, very nicely. I don't like to go in directly with windshield wiper motion. Now windshield wiper motions are just like how your wiper, the car wiper, works, like this. Okay, so windshield wiper is named on the wipers of your car. So windshield wiper is just this motion. I don't like to go in directly with these motions because you have a lot of product on the tip of your brush, right? If you were to put it right here and then go like this, it would end up in a patchy situation because you're just depositing a lot of color here, but you're dragging the color. So I like to go in circular motions, and when I feel like if there's more color in one place, I just take a little bit of more eyeshadow and I start from after where I feel there's a lot of product, so we have an even layer of color. Now I want to quickly also touch upon the fact that why are we using a light color if we have to go in darker anyway. A lot of people have this query that if you have to deepen up the crease, why not just go in with the darker color and just call it a day. You can of course blend a darker color and make it look amazing, but that would require a lot of patience, a lot of skill, a lot of blending, a lot of everything. Now when you're laying down a transition color, what it does is it's a powder, so obviously the other powder won't grip onto your eye primer so strongly, and you can just easily blend that color out. And B, when you already have a transition shade into place, like this is already blending out into your skin so nicely, so it just makes the process easier. You don't have to use as much dark eyeshadow as well. If you're using just a dark eyeshadow in your crease, you'll have to deepen it up constantly because you do tend to lose a lot of pigment when you're blending things out. Things tend to blend out, that's blending. So you don't have to use so much of the darker pigment because you already have that gradient set down for you beforehand. Now we're going to switch up our brush. So from this fluffy nice brush, we're moving on to a slightly dense brush. Again, this is fluffy, but it is denser than the previous one. It is more pointed, so it will give you more precision in your crease. And as I said earlier, the smaller your brush goes, the darker your color goes. So we're going to pick up this shade right here, this beautiful coral peach shade. And again, I'm going to pick it up on the tip of my brush because the sides really don't matter. So I'm just going to pick it up from here, dust off the excess, always dust off the excess. And again, we're going to go into the crease. I'm going to start with circular motions again, but this time I'm going to ensure I keep it lower than the original color. You don't want to cover up the original color. The idea of putting that color down is to make sure that there is a nice gradient look going on. Now my first initial motion is going to be circular motion again because I want to ensure that there is a nice and even layer, and once that is achieved, I'm going to go in windshield wiper motions to ensure that the color is blended into the previous color. Now what I like to do personally is with every darker color that I lay down, I take the brush that I used prior to that color. So in this case, we only have one brush. So I like to take this brush and I like to go around the eyes again just to ensure that the blending is nice. If you do blending in smaller spurts, then you will end up doing lesser blending overall. If you were to just place your colors and leave blending for the last, you will be doing an arm workout when you will be blending them out. So just blend as you go so that everything is nice and seamless. Now we're moving on from this to this, which is a nice pencil brush, but it still has some fluffiness to it. It's not completely stiff or dense. It has some movement, some flexibility to it. So it still can blend, but it's going to deposit a lot of color and pigment as well. I'm going to pick up this color, and again, you still want to work just with your tip, not with the sides. Just coat your tip and tap off the excess. Time for another tip. The denser the brush, the darker the color, the lower the placement. You want to lower the placement because again you want that gradient, you want that transition to happen. You don't want it to be like dark up there. There's no point of applying the lighter shadow if you are going to be covering it up completely with the darker shadow. You want to lower your placement as you go darker with your color. So now I'm just going to again go into my crease. I'm going to place it lower than I've applied my peach color. So I'm just placing the color, I'm going in circular motions, and then I'm just going to blend it out again in my windshield wiper motion. Another reason why I don't like to go directly in with my windshield wiper motion, especially with the darker shade, is when you're doing windshield wiper motion, your brush, if you have even slightest amount of pressure, the brush tends to flick, and when you're flicking you end up having a lot of fallout here because the pigment, I'm going to show you. So here is our brush, and once you do this, you saw that there was so much pigment that just blew up in the air. So if you're going to do this on the eyelid, you're going to have a lot of fallout right here, and it's going to make your eyes look really dark and muddy, and you don't want that. So you just want to go first in with your circular motions, and once you have lesser pigment, lesser product on your brush, you can then go in windshield wiper motions without that much fear. And again, going back in with the previous brush that you used and just blend that shadow out and make sure that it's nice and blended in with the earlier colors. If at any point you feel like the colors are not as intense you want them to be, just go back in with your shades and the brush that you used for that shade and just reapply the colors just to get that intensity back on your eyelid. But just make sure you're doing it with a very light hand. You don't want to just apply a lot of pressure into one place. Just do it with a very light hand just to get that pigmentation back on, because blending can take away a lot of pigmentation. So just apply that color very gently and mesh the colors together so that the blending is not, something that you need to work upon again and again. Moving on to the last brush for the crease, we're going to move from this to this. Now you might feel there's not a lot of difference between these two, but this is more pointed while this is more round. So this just offers a little bit more precision with your work, so you can just go very concentrated in one area. I'm going to pick up this chocolate shade, and you guessed it right, we're just picking up with the tip so that we don't have a lot of product on the sides, just the tip, dusting off the excess. Now up till now we were just building depth in our eye, so we were just creating depth in the crease. Now we're going to create a little bit of smokiness, so we were taking all of these shadows up until here. Now we're just going to leave it till here, so we have that smokiness, that the outer corner is darker than the inner corner. So with this shade I'm just going to go in circular motions till the half of my eye, and I'm going to leave it there. I'm also going to take it on my lash line, so I'm going to create an outer V so that we have smokiness going on in our eye. You don't want to take this color too much in because that will end up looking more muddy. You just want to concentrate this on the outer edge and outer V of your eye and just create a nice smoky dimension. I'm also stamping this color in because I want maximum pigmentation from this shadow. We don't want it like a wash of color, we want boom pow pigment from this. So just stamp it into place, and we will work the upper edge out with circular motions. I have a little bit of fallout right here, but don't worry about that. Take your powder brush and just dust it off, just flick it off as you get fallout. Don't wait to complete your eyes and then just remove it, because the pigment will start sinking into your foundation and onto your skin, so it will leave a stain. So as soon as you get the fallout, just flick it off. And you again guessed it right, going back in with the previous brush and just ensuring that we blend all of that goodness out. Up until now, we were working with matte eyeshadows that work both with natural as well as synthetic fiber. But now we're going to move on to shimmer, and for that, I would highly suggest you get a synthetic brush that's nice and dense so that you can really pack on the color. This is a flat shader brush. As you can see, it's very thin, it's flat, and it will actually pack on the shimmer for you guys. So I'm going to just work with this peach shadow right here because I want to go for a nice peachy look. And now you want to lay the brush flat. So you're not picking it up like this, you're not picking it up from the tip, but you're just laying it down and you're picking up the shadow so that your brush is nice and coated with the shadow. Dust off the excess so there are no shimmer particles that are extra on the brush. And then on your eye, you just want to stamp it in place. So you just want to stamp it like that. You want to go and stamp it like that. You can obviously wet your brush as well if you want maximum pigmentation out of this. You can also use your fingers. Your fingers are actually the best because they have natural oils, so they just make the pigment even creamier. But if you're someone who doesn't want to use their fingers because maybe you have extensions, or maybe if you're working on clients or someone else and you want it to be a little bit more hygienic, just use a brush and just press the pigment on. Again, you don't want to use a lot of force, just a very gentle force, and I'm just stamping this in. I'm not gliding my brush like that because that again just it adds a little bit more fallout. You just want to stamp this color gently onto your lid. And to blend this color into my crease, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that same brush and I'm going to slightly, just ever so slightly, go in very, very small motions. This is a hybrid between windshield and circular because I am making like small C's, and I'm just going to mix it into my matte. So I want the shimmer to just fade into my matte eyeshadow. So I'm going with a very light hand. You don't want to disturb the shimmer too much, and that way you can just easily blend out the shimmer into the matte. Just gonna layer a little bit of that eyeshadow on my lid area so that the gradient looks even more prominent. You want to have maximum intensity right here, and as you go up, you want the shimmer to start fading into the matte. And if you're using a matte lid color, you just want to go again, just tiny circular motions and blend it into your crease. I'm going to go in with the eyeshadow brush we used prior to this one, and I'm going to make sure that this is nicely blended. So I'm also going to intensify the outer corner a little bit and blend the outer corner color into the shimmer color so that we have a nice smoky depth going on. We're going to move on to our lower lash line, and it's really important to do your lower lash line because it balances out your eye. Right now the eye look looks incomplete because there's just so much going on the top eye, but there's nothing on the lower lash line, which it makes it look very incomplete as well. We're going to go in the opposite order of our crease. So we're going to move on from the darker to the lightest shade because we're going to be smoking out all of the colors. So I'm going to use the darkest brown that we used with that same brush, and I'm just going to stamp it on my lower lash line first. Stamping again is important. The same thing, if you flick it like that, you're going to flick up a lot of powder, you're going to end up having a lot of fallout here. So just stamp it on the lower lash line. You can go in short motions like this as well. Just don't flick it completely in one go like that. What you also want to do right here is connect it to your top lash line. So you want to connect it to the outer V that you've created so everything looks cohesive and in sync. It doesn't look like, oh, you have a different eyeshadow game going on. So I'm just going to apply the darkest brown, and I'm going to make sure that the pigmentation is as much as I want it to be. Then moving on to our second last brown on our crease, and again I'm just going to stamp it slightly lower to our previous brown. The concept is same that we used on our top lash line. You want to create a gradient, but this time around you're working from the darkest color to the lightest, and again just join it to your outer corner. Here goes the peach shadow, just barely touching my lash line, barely touching it, and just connecting it to the outer V. And lastly, using the first shade that we used to make sure that everything is nice and blended into the skin. Now you see how much more balanced this eye looks? It's because we have equivalent depth on the lower lash line as well. So it doesn't look as hollow or empty as this side does because there's depth only on the top here. So it's very important to just match it to the depth on the lower lash line as well so that it looks nice and cohesive. So I'll just repeat all of these steps on this eye as well. We're going to end our eyeshadow work with highlighting. Highlighting makes your eyes look brighter and more awake and just open. You can either use the highlighter that you've used on your face, or if your eyeshadow palette has a shade, I'm going to use this golden shade right here. I'm using a pencil brush which is synthetic. I'm going to pick up this color again on the tip of my brush so that my brush is nicely coated. I'm going to dust off the excess. I'm going to place my brush right here. I'm going to make small circular strokes, and I'm going to ensure that the color is nicely blended onto my lid as well as onto my lower lash line so that my eyes look more bright and awake. As you can see, a highlight makes a world of a difference. You also want to highlight the highest point underneath your brow, that is your brow bone. This just lifts up your brows and gives your brow and your face a lot of structure and definition. I just did my lashes and lips to complete the look, and we are done with this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and it was helpful for you guys. Again, this was just a nice basic guide for you guys to understand blending and everything. It's all about the technique here, and once you get the technique down, then you can do anything. You can switch up the colors, you can just create more layers, more depth to the eyes, whatever you prefer. There's a huge vast world of makeup out there waiting for you to play with it. So yes, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this again, and I'll see you guys next time. Till then, take care, stay safe, stay home. I'll see you guys next time. Mwah. Bye.